Shocking cry at midnight, special child screams mommy. Cleaner reveals dark secret. It was one of those nights where the air hung heavy with secrets. The moon, a pale ghost, waxed and waned in the ink-black sky, casting eerie shadows through the cracks of the old, creaking house. As the clock struck midnight, the quiet was shattered by a blood-curdling scream. A child's voice echoed through the halls, calling out for their mother. Mommy. It wasn't just a cry, it was a desperate plea that twisted the stomach and sent shivers down spines. The neighbors stirred, peering through their curtains, breath held tight in their chests. They exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to ignore the sound or rush toward the chaos unfolding next door. But who was that child? And why was their voice laced with such haunting dread? The faint flicker of a streetlight illuminated a figure moving quickly down the alleyways. An old cleaner, known only as Miss Patty. She'd worked in the neighborhood for years, her weathered hands brushing away the remnants of a world people had long stopped caring about. But tonight, she paused, eyes wide, staring toward the house with a mix of concern and something darker that definitely wasn't just worry. What had she seen? As whispers grew among the neighbors, panic seeped through the walls. Was it just a child, lost in the quiet of night? Or was there something sinister lurking in the shadows of that small house? The air electrified with tension, thick and palpable, as the curious crowd grew. Eyes darted from the windows to Miss Patty, who stood rooted to the spot, frozen as if she'd just witnessed a crime. The child's cries intensified, cutting deeper than the chill of the night. Each desperate scream felt like a call for help, flinging open the doors to secrets no one wanted to face. What had happened in that dim living room, where only the flickering light dared to venture? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The scream rang out again, but this time it was different. There was a crackling static in the air, almost a warning. Miss Patty turned on her heel, her heart racing as if chasing her thoughts. She knew shadows better than anyone, having seen the aftermath of countless secrets buried beneath the surface. And what she thought she was about to reveal might change everything for the child, for the neighborhood, for herself. She stepped forward, propelled by urgency and trembling fear, driven by a nagging intuition that today would unveil the darkest corners of that house. Little did she know, the truth waiting within those walls was scarier than anything the night could unleash. What hidden horrors lay in wait? Miss Patty stumbled into the cool night, her breath fogging in the thick air. She felt a tight knot in her stomach, every instinct screaming that she couldn't just stand by. The screams continued, raw and desperate, slicing through her resolve. She had heard those cries before, echoes of pain that reverberated with memories she tried to suppress. As she approached the house, Miss Patty could see shadows flickering behind the curtains. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the front door, but something stopped her. A sudden chill crawled up her spine. It wasn't just the fear of what awaited her inside, it was the heavy silence that followed the child's last scream. It struck her like a punch to the gut. "Help me." The voice rose again, this time softer, as if choked by fear. She knocked once, then twice, her knuckles rapping against the peeling wood. The sound echoed, loud in the desolate night, but no answer came. No rustle of movement, no hurried footsteps. Just the pervading stillness that suffocated her senses. Behind her, the gathering crowd began to murmur, voices escalating in concern. "Call for help. Someone has to do something." One neighbor shouted, the impatience giving way to panic. Miss Patty took a deep breath, scanning the neighbors' anxious faces, all caught between curiosity and fear. Knowing it was now or never, she pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, a warning that shivered through her. Inside, the dim light revealed a living room untouched by time, with furniture draped in white sheets. Shadows danced ominously across the walls as she tiptoed through the entrance. The smell of stale air lingered, mingling with something metallic and sickly sweet that turned her stomach. "Is anyone here?" she called, her voice rigid, echoing through the eerie silence. The only response was the sound of her own heartbeat, thudding like a drum. In the corner of the room, a small figure emerged, a child, no older than 6, standing wide-eyed and trembling, clutching a faded teddy bear. The sight struck her like a bolt of lightning. The child was covered in dirt, with tears streaming down their cheeks. "Mommy, she's gone." The child whimpered, collapsing to the floor, clutching the bear as if it were a life buoy. Miss Patty's heart raced. Gone. What did that mean? "Sweetheart, where is your mommy?" She knelt down, concern washing over her. The child looked up, eyes filled with a terror that cut like glass. "I don't know. She wasn't supposed to leave." The words tumbled out, panic thrumming in each syllable. Before Miss Patty could ask more, the air grew thick with a heavy silence, the kind that could swallow you whole. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from a darkened hallway, a crash, followed by frantic footsteps. Miss Patty's chest tightened as dread filled every corner of her mind. The child recoiled, pressing back against the wall, a stark figure in the enveloping darkness. Please don't let them get me." Miss Patty shot to her feet, every maternal instinct roaring inside her. "Stay here," she ordered, rushing towards the sound, her heart pounding wildly. She rounded the corner, and then a door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure. "Who dared to come into my house?" A voice rumbled, low and furious, cutting through the tense air like a knife. Tension skyrocketed, the world narrowing into that one moment of uncertainty. Who was this person? What sinister reality had Miss Patty stumbled into? As the figure advanced, the child's whimper echoed in her ears, the haunting melody of fear. What had Miss Patty unleashed? What awaited her in the depths of that haunted home? The darkness whispered promises of secrets that may never see the light again. The figure stepped into the dim light, and Miss Patty gasped. It was a tall, gaunt man, eyes glinting with a menacing hunger. Dark hair hung limply over his forehead, his shirt stained and torn. There was an unshakable sense of danger in his presence. "Get out!" he barked, voice laced with fury. "You don't belong here." But Miss Patty's feet felt glued to the floor, propelled only by her heart's frantic beats. "Please. Where's the child's mother?" The urgency in her voice cut through her fear, boldness igniting her resolve. "None of your business. You need to leave now." His hands clenched into fists. The urgency in her gut kicked harder. As long as she was here, that child remained in jeopardy. Just as she hesitated, caught in his piercing glare, a crash resonated again from deeper in the house, followed by a whimper that made her stomach drop. Ignoring the man, Miss Patty blurted, "I can't leave without helping." She stepped forward, her determination solid. "Get back!" he roared. But before she could react, he lunged toward her. With a jolt of instinct, she sidestepped, the sudden adrenaline surging through her as she turned and sprinted down the dark hallway. The layout of the old home felt labyrinthine, twisting and turning, shadows gathering like vultures. Rushing through space, she heard the child's cries echoing again, drawing her deeper in. "Mommy," it pleaded, the innocent voice filled with raw anguish. As she turned the corner, a door slammed. Panic coursed through her. Was it the child, or something even worse lurking beyond? Trying to steady her breath, she pressed her ear against the splintered wood. Nothing. Just silence, heavy and foreboding, heart pounding. She grabbed the handle, but it was locked tight. "No!" she hissed, frustration clawing at her. Then, she noticed the faintest glimmer beneath another door, slightly ajar at the end of the hallway. A ray of light was filtering through, flickering in rhythm with the child's cries. Without another thought, she rushed toward it, her hands trembling with urgency as she pushed the door open. Inside, her heart plummeted. The room was filled with overturned furniture, papers scattered like fallen leaves, but right in the center stood a small wooden chest, its lid cracked open. She approached slowly, fear gnawing at her senses, and peered inside. There, amidst strange trinkets and dusty toys, lay a series of pictures of children, some smiling, others frozen in fear. Her breath caught in her throat. "Help me!" The child's voice called from behind her, desperation lacing the words. She spun around. The gaunt man was now closer, his furious eyes locked onto her, a savage smirk curling his lips. "You should be listened," he sneered. "What do you want?" she asked, backing away, heart racing as she struggled to comprehend the dark turn of events. "Only what you are refusing to leave behind," he said darkly, stepping forward. This was no ordinary home. It was a house of nightmares, and Miss Patty felt the walls closing in around her. She needed to escape before she became just another photograph in that chest. As she bolted back into the hallway, her mind raced with the truth she was beginning to unveil. What sinister motives lay behind those silenced screams? Without looking back, she sprinted toward the exit, but the door slammed shut before her. Breathless, trapped in the growing darkness, she realized this was far from over. How many children had suffered here? Who were these people? As she pressed her palm against the door, energy surged through her fingers. The wall pulsed with a faint warmth, beckoning her to press on. The whispers grew louder. "Miss Patty. Help me." But this time, they felt chillingly far away. What else would she find in this house of horrors? What secrets would be unshackled in her pursuit of the truth? The answers awaited as the darkness loomed thicker. The walls pulsed under her palm, and Miss Patty's heart hammered as terror mixed with a strange, inexplicable sensation. It was as if the house itself was alive and intricately tangled in the plight she felt each time those panicked cries pierced the air. "Help me!" The shrill plea echoed again, louder now, sending a jolt down her spine. She had to find the source. She tore her gaze from the door, the terrible weight of uncertainty pulling her back to the hallway. And then, another sound sliced through the heavy silence, the rattle of chains. Panic clawed at her throat. What had she walked into? The gaunt man's presence loomed in her mind, a monstrous figure in the shadows. What was his connection to the screams? Was he keeping the child captive? Questions battered at her now as she forced herself to breathe, to think. Before she could make sense of what to do, the door behind her shuddered violently, then clicked open just a fraction. A gust of cold air swirled around her, an invitation, a warning. Could this be an escape? Or was it another trap? With a rush of adrenaline, she seized the opportunity and pushed against the door, swinging it wide open. The hallway beyond was shrouded in darkness, and her instincts screamed at her to run. She took cautious steps forward, her voice trembling as she called out, "I'm here." "Where are you?" The answer came not from a child, but from a raucous shuffling followed by the unmistakable sound of something heavy dropping. She caught a fleeting glimpse of movement in the corner of her eye before a figure lurched into the dim light, a woman, disheveled and frantic. "Help me. Please. You must get out." The woman cried, her voice hoarse and frantic, eyes wild with fear. "Where is the child?" Miss Patty asked, trying to decipher the urgency in her tone. "What is happening here?" The woman clutched her arm, shaking. "He's coming. We can't be here. You need to leave while you still can. Please." "I can't leave without finding the child," Miss Patty replied, wrestling with her decisions. "Don't you understand? The child isn't the only one trapped." The woman's voice trembled, reflecting the truth of the horror that enveloped them. "There are many victims, each locked in a nightmare." Miss Patty's thoughts bounced like ping-pong balls. Victims? The photographs. The toys. All of it had felt too real, too tragic. "What do you mean? What does he do to them?" But before they could delve deeper, the man's voice erupted through the shadows, low and menacing. What a delightful reunion! He emerged like a specter from the very walls of the house, his rage amplified by the flickering light. You really shouldn't be here, both of you. Miss Patty's stomach dropped, realization washing over her like ice water. She instinctively pulled back, ready to defend herself and the frantic woman. The walls seemed to close in again, the darkness pressing against them as the man took a menacing step forward. "What have you done?" she shouted desperately. "You'll find out soon enough," he sneered, with a twisted smile that sent shivers racing down her spine. But before Miss Patty could form another question or plea, the woman tugged her fiercely toward an open door at the end of the hallway, a sliver of light spilling from it. "This way. We have to move." The urgency of the situation pierced through the dread. Together, they bolted toward the door, the shadows closing in behind them, but not before the man shouted, "You can't escape what's already been done." The door loomed closer, bright and beckoning. Would it lead to salvation or another trap? As they passed through, a loud crash erupted behind them. Miss Patty stumbled, the trembling woman almost pulling her off balance. Keep going. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find the child? Or had they just entered deeper into the nightmare? Outside, the world seemed unchanged, and yet nothing would ever be the same again. Adrenaline raced through Miss Patty's veins as she stumbled into the unfamiliar, yet eerily calm outside. The air smelled of damp earth and something acrid like burnt metal. Shadows loomed, stretching across the yard, reminding her painfully of the darkness they had just escaped. She turned, glancing back at the door they had just burst through, half expecting the gaunt man to come barreling through at any moment. But nothing happened. Only silence hung thick in the air, clinging to her skin. The woman beside her, still trembling, whispered, "We need to hide, now." Before Miss Patty could ask where, her instincts kicked in, pushing her to move. The yard, devoid of life, was a patchwork of crumbling stone paths and overgrown weeds. It looked like a forgotten graveyard. A line of tall hedges crouched along one side, dark fingers bending under the weight of unseen burdens. "Over there." Miss Patty pointed, pulling the woman toward the hedges. They ducked inside, the branches jagged against their skin, and pressed close together, hearts pounding in sympathetic rhythm. "Who is he?" Miss Patty finally asked, desperation punctuating her voice. "What does he want?" The woman's eyes darted, haunted. "He's been taking children for years. Breaking them down, hollowing them out. The screams, they don't just haunt the house. They live inside him." Miss Patty instinctively recoiled. "But why? Why would anyone to feed his darkness?" the woman interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "He believes he can harness their innocence, keep it locked away forever, and grow stronger. But in reality, he just becomes more monstrous." A sudden crash rang out from the house, the sound echoed far too close. They held their breath, trying to drown out the noise, but a haunting laughter followed his voice, mocking and cruel. "How sweet it is to play with your nightmares," he called out, sealed within those cursed walls. Miss Patty's heart pounded so hard it felt ready to burst. "We can't just hide here. There's a child, he needs help. But what can we do?" The woman's voice cracked. "We're just two more victims. If we go back, we'll become part of his collection." Miss Patty's thoughts raced. The child was trapped, clinging to a thread of hope. "We can't let him win. We have to lure him away." The woman stiffened but nodded, her resolve slowly building within. "Then what's the plan?" "You can't face him alone." "Maybe we don't have to face him head-on." Miss Patty's mind flickered with a dangerous idea. "If I can create a distraction, you can slip in and find the child." Miss Patty's own words sent a chill coursing through her. Was she willing to risk everything? The weight of the choice dangled in the air, sharp as broken glass. "But what if he catches you?" The woman's voice trembled. "Then I'll buy you time." "You have to save him," Miss Patty said, the conviction rising within her throat like bile. "It's the only way. Please trust me, we can do this." As she prepared to slip from their hiding spot, a sudden rustle froze them both. The man's laughter faded, replaced by heavy footsteps crunching on twigs. They were coming nearer, too close for comfort. The moment hung suspended, trembling with fear and urgency. Then, just as Miss Patty's heart began to race at the thought of being discovered, a shrill scream pierced the air, one that made the blood in her veins freeze. "Mommy! Please help me!" The voice was unmistakably that of a child, full of undeniable terror. "Go!" Miss Patty urged, fighting the surge of terror that suffocated her. "Now!" The woman hesitated, but finally nodded and darted into the shadows of the overgrown yard. Miss Patty squared her shoulders, bracing herself for the confrontation that awaited her, hoping she could outsmart the monster before him. But could she really save the child before it was too late? The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, and time slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. Heart racing, she stepped forward into the open, facing whatever nightmarish reality lay ahead. Miss Patty's breath hitched in her throat as she emerged from the cover of the hedges, the moonlight washing over her like frozen water. Time felt distorted. Each step echoed louder than the last, like a drumbeat announcing her imminent doom. "Mommy! Please help me!" The screech painted her skin with goosebumps. It wasn't just a cry for help, it was a siren song, pulling her closer toward the horror she desperately wished to avoid. The footsteps grew louder, two shadows flitting through the doorway behind her like wolves prowling their territory. Panic surged through her veins. She was risking it all, and now her only chance to save the child lay ahead. "Come on, Patty, you can do this," she muttered under her breath, forcing each word through a throat tight with fear. She scanned her surroundings, searching for anything useful. A rusted garden shovel propped against a decaying fence caught her eye. Grabbing it, she felt its weight in her hands, grounding her as she prepared for whatever sought to consume her. "Stay calm, stay smart," she told herself again, hoping the mantra would stave off the dread pooling in her stomach. Before she had a chance to think too much, she moved toward the house, ducking low to stay out of sight, each step tentative yet fueled by desperation. She remembered what the woman had said, how the man collected children and rendered them lifeless husks of their former selves. It made her shudder. What if the child was already trapped? Then, just as she neared the doorway, a rustling sound made Miss Patty freeze. A figure loomed just inside, silhouetted against the faint light streaking from inside the house. He was there, that gaunt man, his face a mask of hunger and madness. His mouth twisted into a dreadful smile that sent chills down her spine. "Ah, sweet Patty," he cooed, his tone dripping with malice, "you think you can play hero?" Her heart thudded violently against her ribcage, constricting her breath. "Get away from the child!" she yelled, affecting more bravery than she felt. "Oh, but the fun is just beginning," he replied, the gleam in his eyes like shards of glass. "Then you'll have to catch me." She turned abruptly, sprinting away from the door, hoping to draw him out. It was a gamble. To hell with retreating. She needed to save the child, and if that meant becoming bait for the beast, then that's what she'd do. As she raced along the cracked stones, her mind raced faster, searching for strategies. Spotting a small window beneath the porch, she decided. If the woman can slip in quietly, so can I. She dove for the gap, her heart pounding a deafening rhythm in her chest. But as she squirmed through, a heavy hand suddenly gripped her ankle, yanking her back. Miss Patty kicked at the hand, the shovel slipping from her grasp, clattering away into the shadows. The air screamed with an oppressive weight as she twisted to meet his gaze. "You should have stayed hidden," he snarled, his voice a blend of fury and delight. Miss Patty fought against his hold, terror curling around her thoughts. "Let me go. I want to let you have her." With a sudden burst of strength, she kicked hard, connecting with his shins, feeling a satisfying jolt as he released her. She scrambled away and stood, ready to run again. Yet, the ominous laughter echoed around her, wrapping her in the familiar yet suffocating shadows. "Running only makes it more exciting," he taunted, slinking around her like a predator closing in on its meal, and then, the child's scream pierced the thick night air again. "Mommy!" The urgency of the child's need rejuvenated Miss Patty. She darted toward the voice, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Would she reach the child in time? "Shut up!" he shouted, his fury igniting a primal fear within her. The chase had locked them both into a sinister game, and she was determined to win, not just for herself but for the child too, but as she neared the sound, her heart sank deeper into dread. What if she was leading the hunter straight to his prey? The stakes rose with each step, drowning her in a cascade of uncertainty. As the door creaked open wider, she found herself stepping into the uncharted abyss of the house, filled with shadows waiting to swallow her whole. What fate awaited her, caught between the twisted game of survival and saving an innocent life? Would darkness consume them both? As she whispered a silent prayer, the air thickened with dread, and the answer lingered on her lips. Inside the house, every sound felt magnified. Miss Patty's breath echoed back at her, a desperate plea against the thick silence that smothered the atmosphere. Shadows danced on the walls, unnatural shapes bringing her closer to insanity. "Mommy! Help me!" The child's voice was more urgent now, filled with panic, like nails scraping across glass, echoing in the cave of her mind. Miss Patty's heart raced anew. She had to move, had to find her. She stumbled deeper into the murky gloom, straining her ears. Her surroundings twisted into an ominous gallery of family portraits, each face frozen in time, caught in expressions of joy that now felt grotesque. She tried to shake off the feeling of being watched. The portraits' eyes seemed to follow her every motion as she turned her back on them. "Where are you?" she whispered, forcing words through her tightly clenched throat. There was no response, only silence, thick and suffocating. Frustration flared in her chest. She remembered the shovel she'd dropped. Every instinct told her she needed a weapon, something to defend against the lurking danger. With a decisive turn, she crept back toward the door she'd just rushed through, shadows enveloping her like a shroud. The moment her fingers brushed against the cool metal of the doorknob, a light flickered on down the hallway. She froze, muscles tightened with fear. The light was cruel, exposing only the most sinister corners of the house, contrasting against the darkness that surrounded it. "Patty," the man's whisper flowed through the hall like poisoned honey. "You play such fun games, don't you?" Her gut twisted. The idea of him hunting her while she fought to save the child ignited a furious fire within her. Taking a steadying breath, she darted to the shadows, her heart pounding like a war drum, as she pressed her back against the cold wall. With every breath, the tension escalated. His footsteps echoed, one after another, each louder and more measured than the last. "You shouldn't have come here," he continued, his voice a sickening lullaby weaving through the air. "This house holds secrets you're not ready to uncover." "Shut up!" She wanted to scream, but the fury that coursed through her veins was accompanied by a spiraling dread. "Little by little, they all come to me, but who'll come for you?" The taunt coiled around her, making her want to turn and run, but this time she stood firm. "Where is she?" she shouted into the void, conviction mingled with despair. "Such determination will only lead to heartbreak." He laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the dark. Then, a muffled whimper caught her attention just beyond the door at the end of the hallway. She spun toward it, her hope kindling a desperate urge to break free from this nightmare. With every ounce of courage, Miss Patty charged forward, propelled by the cries for help. She reached the door, her hands trembling against the wood, her senses heightening. "All right, Patty, this is it," she whispered to herself, gathering resolve. Just as she prepared to throw it open, the door creaked ominously under her touch. It felt as if it held a force of its own, trying to resist her. The world fell eerily silent, leaving only the soft, broken sounds of a child pleading, gasping for air. She burst through the door and, the sight before her sent shockwaves through her body. A tall silhouette stood ominously over the tiny form huddled on the ground, hands clutching desperately at the floor. Miss Patty gasped as the man turned, a twisted grin spreading across his face. "Welcome to the show." Her breath hitched. Suddenly, the answer to her desperate plea became alarmingly clear. The child, his next victim, was perilously close, trapped in the jaws of imminent horror. Time froze. Miss Patty felt her heart stop, caught in this grotesque tableau. But even as fear gripped her, a fire ignited within, pulling her into action. As she lunged at the figure, the truth of the house's sinister grasp began to unravel. The dark secret hidden within its walls was now threatening to consume them all. Could she outwit the monster before him, or was she merely walking into a carefully laid trap? Miss Patty charged forward, every muscle screaming at her to run, but there was no time for that. The man's laughter echoed mockingly as she collided with his mass, their bodies crashing together with a violent thud. The shock sent her sprawling onto the floor, a jolt of pain radiating through her shoulder. "Foolish woman!" he barked, looming over her like a shadow that consumed the light. The girl's crying intensified, a sharp crescendo that tore at her heart. The urgency propelled her back onto her feet, igniting her instinct to protect. "Get away from her!" she shouted, the command tearing from her throat with all the strength she could muster. The man turned slowly, his smile twisted, his eyes gleaming with malicious delight. "A hero with a brave heart?" he mocked, adjusting his grip on something behind him. A glint of cold metal caught the dim light. It was a knife, simple yet menacing. Frozen in place, Miss Patty felt fear clawing at her insides, but the desperate cries of the child surged through the cacophony. No more hesitation. She shifted to her right, eyes darting for the nearest object, any potential weapon she could find. Then she saw it, a dusty chair in the corner, its rigid contours promising just enough weight to swing at this monster. She lunged toward the chair, adrenaline pouring into her veins, but he moved preemptively, stepping sideways, blocking her path. "You know, this house has a way of revealing the true desires of people's hearts," he taunted, gripping the knife tightly. Suddenly, the boy's panicked eyes met hers, a desperate plea for safety that ignited something primal within her. "Please," his trembling voice reached her, it pulled at her soul, slicing through the dread. "I want to let him take you," she screamed, her voice raw with emotion. In one swift movement, she grasped the chair and swung it with all her might. The impact resonated like a thunderclap, sending the man crashing to the floor, knife clattering away. He roared in rage, his expression morphing from surprise to fury, his eyes burning with pure hatred. With a swift glance, Miss Patty sought the child. His frail figure was curled on the floor, terror painting his small features. "Come here," she urged, holding her hands out, heart racing. He hesitated, fear anchoring him in place, but the shadow of the man's wrath loomed closer. "Now," she urged once more, urgency bursting through her words. Little feet scrambled towards her as she crouched low, wrapping her arms around him. Just as they embraced, the man clutched himself and rose back up, his fury transforming into cold determination. "You think you can escape? This game has only just begun." The door behind them slammed shut as if sealing their fate. Panic flooded her chest. "We need to get out, now." Miss Patty tightened her grip, her heart pounding as they dashed for the window, desperation fueling her every move. She hurled herself against it, but it wouldn't budge. The darkness pressed in, a palpable reminder of their confinement. "Patty!" The man's voice sent shivers down her spine. "The real question is, how far will you go to save him?" Time felt suspended within that moment. A realization washed over her. He wasn't just a predator. He was playing a game, a cruel puppet master, orchestrating their every move. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting strobing shadows that were alive with chaos. As darkness merged with panic, she felt a new chill crawl over her skin. What's the next move, Miss Patty? As dread coiled tighter around her heart, she realized the game was already in motion. With a determination born from her love for the child, she took a deep breath. "I will not lose." Just then, the floor beneath them creaked ominously, a warning of something that lay beneath, something dreadful waiting to awaken. What horror lurked beneath the surface, and was time running out for them both? The room pulsed around Miss Patty like a living thing, each creak and groan of the floor seeming to bend closer to the source of fear. She crouched protectively over the boy, his tiny frame shivering against her, his breaths quick and shallow, mirroring her own rising panic. The sinister man glared at them, his teeth shining in the dim light, a cruel twist of anticipation dancing across his face. "What's the matter?" he taunted, savoring every moment of their despair. "Are you scared of a little darkness?" "Shut up!" she screamed, her voice cracking. She felt dizzy, the weight of the situation threatening to crush her like a vice. She had to think. "We need to find a way out." Her instincts kicked in. She pushed the boy behind her, glancing around the room again. The walls felt alive, whispering secrets that made her skin crawl. The chair lay on the ground, upturned, a beacon of her earlier courage. But it felt useless now, reduced to a mere prop in this twisted game. "Let him go," she hissed, finding strength in her anger. "He's just a child." The man chuckled, a low rumble that sent chills down her spine. "Oh, my dear, he's more than just a child. He's a pawn in this little chess game we're playing. A prize, if you will." The silhouette of his figure stretched across the room, shadow melding with shadow. It was hard to pinpoint where he began and the darkness ended. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, wild and frantic, a murmur drowning in an ocean of chaos. Without thinking, she lunged for the knife that had skittered away. It felt cool against her palm, but doubt coursed through her veins. Was she truly prepared to use it? The thought of violence twisted her stomach. And yet, what choice did she have? "Do you really think you can hurt me?" His voice sliced through her thoughts. He took a step closer, and she could see the glint in his eyes, a sadistic amusement igniting within. "You're just a scared little woman, playing with fire. What will you do when it burns you?" "Whatever it takes," she shouted defiantly, adrenaline coursing through her like fire. She held the knife tightly, her knuckles white against the steel. But the moment shattered. A sudden crash echoed from the back of the room, that creaking floor giving way to something hidden beneath. The sound was wet and unnatural, a sickening reminder of what they were facing. In that instant, the ground shook violently, as if the very house were awakening from a nightmare. Miss Patty instinctively pulled the boy closer, shielding him with her body. The walls quivered, and dust fell like rain from the ceiling. She could swear she heard distorted whispers rising from below, a dread-laden song that seemed to call to her. "See what you've started." The man roared, but his bravado faltered as the floorboards buckled underfoot. A dark seam opened up, revealing a yawning chasm deep and hungry. "What's down there?" she asked, terror creeping into her voice. "Your worst fears," he spat, grinning as if relishing her confusion. "And when the floor falls away, it'll take you both with it." The ground continued to tremble, and panic ignited inside her. With no time to waste, she darted toward the door, heart racing. It was locked, an impenetrable barrier standing between them and freedom. The boy's terrified gaze met hers, and in that moment, she understood the stakes were higher than she had imagined. "Miss Patty." His voice was loud and high, cutting through the noise. "What do we do?" "Hold on tight," she barked, inching backward, searching for any possible escape route. She could feel the floor slipping beneath them, a siren song beckoning them to the abyss below. Just as she felt the earth buckling, she turned her gaze back at the dark figure. "This ends here." With those words echoing in the air, she braced herself for whatever came next. Whatever lurked beneath was no longer just a game. It was a reckoning. But as the ground roared against its own destruction, a new sound filled the room, a child's cry, echoing from the darkness. "Mommy!" Hope ignited in her heart, replacing dread with a sense of urgency. Who was calling? And could she save them all before it was too late? Just as the darkness seemed insurmountable, the child's voice sliced through the suffocating atmosphere, pulling Miss Patty back from the brink of despair. "Mommy!" The word echoed like a beacon of hope, awakening every motherly instinct buried deep within her. "Hold on to me!" she shouted, grasping the boy's tiny hand tightly. "We're getting out of here." The ground shuddered again, a violent reminder that time was slipping through their fingers like sand. She felt a new surge of adrenaline, a desperation fueled by the cries that haunted her. "Where are you?" she asked, glancing back at the gaunt man. His sinister smile faded, revealing the cracks in his facade. He roared with anger, "You can't save them. The darkness belongs to me." Ignoring him, Miss Patty pressed forward, dragging the boy toward the door. The air crackled with tension as she rammed her shoulder against it. "Come on." She could hear the faint cries of other children, echoing through the walls like whispers of forgotten hope. Their fate lay in her hands, and she stumbled back before charging once more, their combined fear morphing into pure determination. With a sharp crack, the door splintered, just enough for them to slip through into the dim hallway beyond. The man howled behind them, darkness raging like a tempest. "Run!" Miss Patty urged, urgency punctuating every word as they darted down the narrow corridor. They rounded corners, their feet pounding against the aged wood, each heartbeat a reminder of just how close danger lurked. The boy's grip tightened around her hand, his wide eyes flickering between terror and relief. Miss Patty could feel the walls beginning to shift, the house responding to their escape like a living creature, intent on keeping its secrets hidden. Suddenly, the path opened into a vast chamber illuminated by ghostly light. It was filled with trinkets, old toys, and photographs, memories trapped within the walls, each snapshot a chilling tale of innocence lost. "Help me!" The child's cries echoed through the air, resonating with an intensity that made Miss Patty's heart break. "There! Over there!" She pointed toward a small door at the back of the room, so mundane yet teeming with possibility, but just as they began to sprint again, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Miss Patty stumbled, losing her grip on the boy for a split second. It felt like the very house was inhaling, preparing to expel its contents in a fit of fury. "Grab my hand!" she shouted, feeling her heart lurch as he hesitated, caught between fear and trust. Then wham! The man burst through the entry point, eyes wild, shadows clawing at his form. "Did you really think you could escape?" he barked, stalking forward, his presence smothering everything around them. "No!" she screamed. The child's face contorted in fear. Miss Patty held her ground, stepping back to shield him. "Stay behind me." With a sudden rush of desperate bravery, she flung the remnants of an old glass vase shattered on the ground at him. The shattering shards rushed through the air, distracting him just long enough for her to make a decisive choice. Without thinking, she grabbed a heavy metal object lying on the dusty floor. "Now!" she shouted to the boy, calling on every ounce of strength she had left. His eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and determination as they bolted for the door. The moment they rushed through, the walls of the house trembled like a monster awakening from slumber. Miss Patty could hear the man's enraged growls echoing behind them, vibrating through every fiber of her being as she pushed the door shut behind them. With a final shove, they stumbled into blinding daylight outside a world that felt like an explosion of color after the clutches of darkness. The shrieks of terror faded, swallowed by the distance, but Miss Patty didn't stop. They moved quickly, the small, fragile child by her side, racing across the grass with the sun warming their faces. "Mommy! Mommy!" the boy cried, scanning the yard for familiar faces. Just then, a terrified woman burst from the adjacent house, eyes darting with panic. She scooped him into her arms, collapsing on the grass, tears pouring down her cheeks. "Mommy!" he sobbed, burying his face into her shoulder. Relief flooded through Miss Patty, her heart swelling as she watched their reunion, a light piercing through the cloud of madness left behind, but, as she turned to leave, she felt a heavy gaze upon her. The man stepped out from the shadows of the doorway, eyes blazing, heart still shrouded in darkness. Their eyes locked for an eternal moment, and for once, the twisted gameplay felt still. Then, those fury-filled eyes turned away, and with a menacing smile, the shadows closed around him, consuming him whole. A chill ran down Miss Patty's spine, knowing the house wouldn't he let him go so easily. She shook herself back into reality, her focus shifting to the boy and his mother, who grasped each other tightly, finally free from the nightmare that it was over. Or was it? As they walked away, Miss Patty couldn't shake the lingering sense that terror could still weave its way back into their world. Because the darkness was like a virus, always lurking, waiting for the next chance to envelop anyone who dared to waltz nearby, she made a vow to remain vigilant, to protect those innocent from harm. A determination ignited within her to save others, to fight back when the shadows lingered. "Let us go home," she murmured, holding her heart high against the looming dread, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The warmth of day enveloped them as they left behind the dark house, but they carried stories. Stories to share and people to connect with, telling the tales of bravery stitched tightly against despair, and that's how Miss Patty, the unexpected hero of that haunting night, stepped into the light, carrying with her the knowledge that hope, though fragile, could be a formidable weapon against the darkness. Seeing the horrific cycle finally broken lit a spark in her heart, turning tragedy into strength. Her life wasn't a game, it was a precious gift, ready to shine through even the most oppressive shadows. Thank you for journeying through this chilling tale with us. If you want more stories that grip your heart and make your pulse race, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales. This is the moment to show your support, and hey, if you enjoyed this finale, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your clicks mean everything. Don't be shy, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. How did you feel about Miss Patty's incredible journey? Lastly, this story deserves to be shared. Please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. We need your help to spread the word. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you.